Hi, Misfits. I'm Melinda.
I'm Angie.
And today we are going to talk about the Christmas killings. This is a story that took place in Dayton, Ohio, December 24th, 1992. So on Christmas Eve in 1992, Dayton, Ohio was putting on their big Christmas production, like the big Christmas tree lighting and parades and like all the festivities. And this was in Courthouse Square, which is downtown Dayton. And so there is this group of teenagers who made this night just a little less joyful. This group of teenagers like to call themselves the Downtown Posse, which is a super cool name.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Super duper cool name.
They're creative.
Lame.
Downtown
Posse. Yes.
Pretty badass though.
Yes, and so this posse consists of 4 people. It's got Laura Taylor, who is 16 years old, and DeMarcus Smith, who is 17 years old, Heather Matthews, who's 20 years old, and Marvelous Keene, who is 19 years old. And Marvelous pretty much made himself like the ringleader of the posse.
Is his real name Marvelous, or did he name himself Marvelous?
No, his real name is Marvelous.
Okay.
That is his birth given name. And so the really shitty thing is Marvelous was a super good boy. He was such a good kid and a good student, never, ever in trouble, until his older brother was killed while committing a robbery in 1991. At that point in time, Marvelous really kind of went downhill. He got super angry and just was filled with rage, and he started withdrawing from everybody and everything that he was interested in. He just completely separated himself.
Yeah.
And
it really messed him up.
It did really mess him up. And the bummer thing is in so many people's lives, there is like one huge defining moment. And you can either use that moment to make you or break you. And it just kind of depends on the type of person that you are and how you want to use that moment. And unfortunately, this moment for Marvelous turned him sour. And I can't even imagine losing a sibling. Like, I don't even know how, like, that would just really mess somebody up. And so my heart bleeds for him, but at the same time, he went on the wrong path. So, in 1992, so the very beginning of December in 1992, he left his mom's house and moved into a super cheap motel with his 16-year-old girlfriend. Marvelous is 19 years old.
Oh, okay.
And so he's got the 16-year-old girlfriend who is Laura Taylor. And they move into this really cheap little motel. So that's kind of wonky anyway. But all the kids in this posse were completely estranged from their families and their parents. And so, you know, whether they be runaways or whatever the fact is, their parents are not in the picture. So December 23rd, 1992, Laura says to the posse, let's get some drama in our lives. So she comes up with this plan to rob people to get some money. She decided that the first person would be somebody that she knew. So these kids, they don't have money. And they don't obviously want to do anything to make real money. So they're going to go out and cause a ruckus.
They don't have a skill set. They just...
Yeah. Yep. They're just going to go
as a posse.
Fuck people over. Sounds great. So now we get into victim number 1. And when I say victim number 1, the reason this is called the Christmas killings is because this is a major killing spree that happened within just a couple of days.
That these kids do?
Yeah. These kids, they just go on this ridiculous killing spree. So that's why we say victim number one. His name is Joseph Wilkerson, and he's 34 years old. And Laura had known Joseph already. And so Joseph was a pretty successful guy. He worked for General Motors and was paid pretty well. He had a nice car, and he really kind of had his life together. But he was also known to pay for sex sometimes. And yeah.
How does like that together?
Yeah, well, I mean,
If you're having to pay for it.
I didn't say he was pretty.
Okay.
But, so Laura cooks up this plan to, and she gets a hold of Joseph and tells him, hey, Heather and I are going to come over on Christmas Eve, and we're going to have an orgy.
Heather's another girl in the posse?
Heather is the 20-year-old in the posse.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's Laura, Heather, Marvelous. Not to be confused with Marvelous.
Not to be
That would be
confused with
weird.
Marvelous. Yes. Marvelous and DeMarcus.
And DeMarcus.
Yes.
And Heather and DeMarcus are together?
Yes.
And Laura and Marvelous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So
Heather and Laura are about to go give this guy the time of his life.
the time of his life. Well, not just Heather and Laura, but Marvelous as well.
Oh.
Like they're gonna go have an orgy.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. So they get over to Joseph's house. They go in. They have some drinks with him, and then Laura takes Joseph back to the bedroom. So Joseph's excited, thinking, all right, the party's going to start. And then a couple of minutes later, Heather and Marvelous follow. And so they get in the room, and Joseph starts stripping his clothes off. And the girls pretend to start stripping their clothes off. And Marvelous, he pulls down his pants. And then he very quickly pulls up his pants and says, So then he pulls out a .25 caliber handgun, and he tells Joseph to get on the bed. So Joseph gets on the bed, and the girls take electrical wire and tie him to the headboard. And once he's tied to the headboard, Marvelous stays in the room with Joseph for a little while, and the girls start ransacking the house. And the things that they are stealing are not like indicative of moneymaker items. They're still curling irons, blow dryers, stuff that they personally are going
Would like
want.
to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now they do end up stealing his microwave and his TV, and so the girls take all this stuff out into the garage and put it in Joseph's car. And so at this point in time, Marvelous comes out to the garage after the girls have already lugged this big old TV out there by themselves. And mind you, this is in the 90s. Like, it's got the big old...
It's a box TV.
It's a box TV, and they're damn heavy and awkward. And,
Right.
but these girls, they wanted it. So they got it out there. And Marvelous sees that Joseph has a .32 caliber gun in his garage. So Marvelous grabs Joseph's gun, goes back into the house. The girls are still out loading stuff in the car. And when Marvelous gets inside, he grabs all these blankets and pillows and just piles them on top of Joseph to muffle the sound of a gun. And he takes Joseph's gun and shoots Joseph in the chest.
Bam. For a TV and some curling irons and a microwave?
Yeah. And so the killings were not, like, the shootings, this was not
wasn't even
part
necessary,
of the plan. It
right?
was, no, it wasn't necessary. This was just supposed to be a robbery. They're just trying to make some money.
Yeah.
But Marvelous changed things up. Shoots Joseph in the chest. So the girls hear the gunshot. They come running inside. And Joseph, he's not in good shape, obviously, and he's begging for his life. He's terrified, and he's bleeding. He's shot in the chest. And so Marvelous goes to shoot him again, and the gun doesn't work. He can't get it to shoot. And so he grabs his .25 caliber and hands it to Laura Taylor.
Mm.
Laura goes up to Joseph and shoots him in the head.
Dear Jesus.
The 16-year-old.
For a curling iron.
For a curling
And a
iron.
TV and to kill someone.
Yeah. She goes up, shoots him in the head.
16 years old. Nuts.
And they leave in Joseph's car. And so at that point in time, they end up going to a crack house that Heather knows because Heather has just been released from prison, and she is addicted to crack cocaine.
Heather's 20 years old. Right?
Heather's 20, yes. And so she's all about making this money, right? I mean, she's got things to feed. So they go to this crack house just to take a nap. Like, they're like,
Okay.
That was
Wait, who naps at a crack house?
the Posse.
Huh. I just thought.
The Posse naps at a crack house.
Okay.
Yep. So they go to this crack house. They get all rested up. Then they leave to go pick up Heather's boyfriend, DeMarcus. So DeMarcus was not involved in this first one. So DeMarcus is currently wanted by police for a parole violation. So the four of them go out walking around looking for victim number 2.
In the same night?
Yeah. Yep. This is still Christmas Eve. So the four went walking down Neal Avenue, and they see, so victim number 2, her name is Danita Gillette.
Mm-hmm.
So they go walking down Neal Avenue. They see Danita, who is a senior in high school and has a 2-year-old baby. And she is talking on a payphone. Minding her damn business, talking on a payphone. And DeMarcus and Marvellis walk up to Danita and they point their .25 caliber guns in her face. And Marvellis looks at her and says, "Merry Christmas, bitch." What a dick. Like, just wants to fuck with her, I guess. And it's like playing with your food. And so at this point in time, this is all supposed to just be robberies, but since they killed Joseph, they got a little taste of blood. And then that's what they wanted. That became
Weird.
their fun. So this poor little Danita, she's begging for her life in this phone booth. Begging for her life. And they tell her to take off her coat and her shoes. And mind you, this Christmas Eve in Dayton, Ohio, it's cold, freezing cold. So Danita obeys. She takes off her coat and her shoes. And as soon as she hands these items over, they shoot 9 shots into this phone booth. And Danita, actually, one of the shots actually went through the palm of her hand, which shows that she was like trying to guard herself. It was like a self-defense type of wound is what the report said. So this is a public street. This is completely public. We're not talking a back alley or anything like
Well,
that.
they've got to be like kind of in the ghetto if...
I mean, I don't think so. People saw it. It got called in. Like, people saw the whole thing transpire. So Danita's laying on the sidewalk, bleeding out. And people are calling the police saying, "Hey, I just saw this happen." They're freaking out. And these kids just walk away as if nothing. Just nothing. And DeMarcus is holding Danita's shoes. And Laura is wearing Danita's coat as they walk away into the night. Without a care in the world.
That's crazy.
Yep. And so the police get there and they find the .25 caliber pistol, the shells, shells.
The casings, yeah.
The casings, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. But they were aluminum casings, which is for like plinking, like target shooting, not self-defense or not anything like that. Like, they're just out killing people with plinking ammo. Which the police found that very strange and were like, okay, these kids are obviously inexperienced. They don't know they're kids at this point in time, but these people are obviously and experienced. So, yeah, Danita bleeds out on the sidewalk and she dies, unfortunately.
Well, she was shot 9 times, right?
No, yeah, so they shot 9 times. They hit her 5. But it's still 5 bullets. That's a lot of bullets.
But her baby wasn't with her, obviously.
Nope. She was by herself. And, just so sad. Just a senior in high school with a 2-year-old baby. Mm-hmm. What a senseless crime.
For what?
Like, how horrible.
Just to kill people. And that's the sickness in it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So now we go to victim number 3. His name is Jeffrey Wright. He is 28 years old. So the posse, they go back to Heather's place and hang out with 2 more people. Wendy Cottrell, who is 16, and her boyfriend Marvin Washington. They're all hanging out and celebrating as it's Christmas time, right? Mm. And Heather's ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey, comes over. And Heather and Jeffrey start to argue. And Jeffrey gets super pissed off about something. Nobody knows what this fight was about, but Jeffrey ends up getting super pissed off about this, and he grabs Heather by her hair and drags her into a bedroom. Well, DeMarcus is there. Mm-hmm. DeMarcus sees this happen, so he goes running back there with his gun, and he's just shooting all over. Like, he's shooting. And Jeffrey, he's like waving the white flag, like, hey, dude, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm done. And DeMarcus is so pissed off that he empties his entire gun, shooting at Jeffrey. Luckily, DeMarcus is a super shitty shot. Like, he doesn't shoot like you.
I do like to shoot.
She's a really, really good. She has a belt buckle to prove it. I'm just going to say that.
Oh, you stop it.
So, after he unloads this entire gun we're going to say at Jeffrey, he shoots him once in the leg. So Jeffrey actually ends up getting away and he runs to the neighbor's house. The neighbor takes him to the police station and Jeffrey gives a report. He goes to the hospital. I don't know why he didn't go to the hospital and then the police come and interview him there, but whatever. Anyway, he didn't hit anything vital, like he lived and he was fine. But that was victim number 3. Okay, so now we're going to talk about victim number 4. His name is Richard Maddox, and he's 19 years old.
Okay.
Richard is Laura's ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
Yeah, Laura doesn't like him.
Okay, well.
But I think that Laura just doesn't like anybody that she wants to shoot.
Right.
So, whatever. All she said is she don't like him.
That's her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, well, and who really likes their exes anyway?
I don't.
Not really. That's why they're an ex, right? Mm-hmm. So he had a car and some money. So Laura decides she wants to kill him next.
Well, we're just going to go kill him now.
Yeah, not even rob. Like,
you know what we're going to do? We're not even going to rob people anymore because we have enough curling irons and we have a TV. So I feel like we're set up for life now.
We're pretty good.
We're going to be pretty successful in life now.
Kill these guys.
So we're just going to kill some people.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
That's what posses do, right?
We got TV, got microwave, got curling irons.
We set 100%. So the next day is Christmas Day. And Laura persuades Richard to leave his parents' house. And Laura gets in the truck with Richard, and right behind him are Marvelous, DeMarcus, and Heather, following them in the car they had stolen from Jeffrey. So at that point in time, they're driving for a little while, and then Richard realizes he's being followed. So he steps on the gas, and he's really trying to speed up. So in this moment, Laura grabs the gun. She's got the gun with her, puts it up to his head, and shoots him in the temple.
While he's driving?
While he's driving, and he had been accelerating.
In the passenger.
Yes, and so this was totally planned out because she shoots him in the temple, hurries up, reaches in his pocket, grabs his wallet, and dives out the truck.
So she did rob him.
She robbed him.
God.
Yeah.
So was he a crackhead too?
I don't know.
The ex-boyfriend?
I don't know.
Are these all crackheads?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I think some of them probably are, and some of them probably aren't. Like, I'm not sure exactly who or who isn't, but anyway, when she dove out the truck, you know, she walked away with a limp, but ultimately completely unharmed, and the truck plows into a tree. Again, totally public road. This is seen by many, gets called into the police.
And they're still running amok?
They're still running amok. Amok. So the police get there, and they find 25 caliber aluminum shell casings. Casing. There's only one. And so they're like, oh, same ammo as Danita. Because at this point in time, they haven't found Joseph yet.
Right.
So far, they've seen Danita, and now they've seen Richard. So the next day after Christmas, 12/26, they try to rob someone at an ATM. That doesn't work. So then they go to the gas station and start shooting at a woman, putting air in her tire. She's just putting air in her tire. And thankfully, they're really bad shots unless they're point blank, right? Because nobody shot her. She was able to get away. Now, they did steal her Dodge Shadow. So
I had a Dodge Shadow.
You did. Yours was white. Hers is black.
My ex-boyfriend blew my car up.
He did.
I don't like him.
Just go kill him.
No thanks.
No thanks. So yeah, the woman gets away unharmed. They steal her car. Then they head to a mini mart on the corner of West 5th Street, and they decide to rob it. Victim number 5.
Damn. How many people they kill?
A few. Yep. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Yep. So victim number 5 is Sarah Abraham. She is a 38-year-old mother. Laura goes into this mini mart to case it out and sees that there's only 2 people working at the shop. And Laura and Sarah's the one working at the register. They're just visiting, having simple conversation. And then they start talking about juice. And Laura's asking all these questions about juice. And Sarah's trying to help her out and pick the right one. Whatever. And then Laura tells her, well, I don't have the money to buy this juice. Like, this is too expensive. So there is this older man named Jimmy Thompson. He's 71 years old. He feels bad. He hears this exchange. He feels bad. He buys Laura the juice. And at that point in time, Marvelous Keene and DeMarcus come in with their guns out, telling Sarah to empty the cash register. As soon as Sarah hands the money over to Marvelous, he shoots her once in the mouth and once in the head. And then he decides to shoot the other employee that is there and another customer that is there. Both customers survive. So they were not fatal shots because luckily he's a shitty shot unless it's point blank.
Right.
So then Jimmy Thompson, the 71-year-old man that's there, he lays on the floor and plays dead so that hopefully he won't get shot. And it worked. It worked because teenagers are like, oh, he's laying on the floor. He must be dead.
Right.
So they didn't even shoot at him. So smart dude. Now, unfortunately, Sarah did live for 5 days after being shot in the mouth and the head.
That's insane.
Yep. She passed away 5 days later in the hospital. And so when the police got to the mini mart, they did find the 25 caliber aluminum casings for the gun. So they're like, hey, we know what these casings are. These people are on a killing spree. So at this point in time, the downtown posse, they know that the police are onto them, and they start to implode. And Marvelous and DeMarcus start to become really paranoid as too many people know what they're doing. When they were at Heather's house, that couple, Wendy and Marvin, where the posse was bragging about what they were doing on Christmas Eve.
Right.
You know, they were bragging
they were
to
hanging
them.
out with their friends. Right.
Even though Wendy and Marvin were not directly connected, they now know about what these people have been up to.
Sure, so they're getting nervous because so many people know about this now.
Yes, absolutely. So then they start swapping these cars that they've stolen throughout the day. And not only are they swapping the cars, they're also swapping the license plates on the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we'll get to victim number 6 and victim number 7, who is Wendy Cottrell, 16, and Marvin Washington, 19.
They're friends.
They're friends. Yes.
Yep. I told.
DeMarcus and Marvellis, like I said, they were getting super paranoid about Wendy and Marvin. Even though they were not directly connected, they were still super paranoid, thinking they were going to go to the police or talk to somebody about what had happened. So...
How'd they kill him?
Well, I ain't getting there. Anyway, Marvellis and DeMarcus are with their friend Nicholas Woodson, and they go to pick up Wendy and Marvin.
So they brought someone else in.
Yes,
this too.
they bring Nicholas Woodson. They bring him into it.
Dumb.
Yeah, and actually, they're trying to recruit this Nicholas Woodson to be part of their posse. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. So they go pick up Wendy and Marvin, and the 5 of them drive around for a bit. They stop at a store, and then Marvellis wants to go visit his brother's grave. So they go to the cemetery. Once they leave the cemetery, they drop Nicholas off, and now it is just DeMarcus, Marvellis, Wendy, and Marvin in the car. So DeMarcus and Marvellis drive them to a city-owned gravel pit. And they get Wendy and Marvin out of the car, and they're just grilling these guys. Like, who did you tell? Did you go to the police? And Wendy and Marvin are like, no, we didn't tell anybody. We didn't go to the police. Like, I swear, we didn't go to the police, which was actually true. They didn't tell a single soul. Like, there was no reports of them ever reporting anything to anybody.
Really good friends.
The really good, solid, I'm going to keep your murder a secret friends. Yeah. So... DeMarcus and Marvellis do not believe them. So at this point in time, DeMarcus shoots Wendy in the head, and Marvellis shoots Marvin.
In the head?
Yep.
Did they die?
They die. They both died, and these guys just leave them there at the gravel pit.
Gosh.
Drive off.
I just asked because they've shot other people in the head that lived.
Yep. And I actually got that backwards. I'm sorry. Marvellis shot Wendy, and DeMarcus shot Marvin.
Okay.
So, and yeah, unfortunately, neither of them live. So, Nicholas Woodson,
Their recruit.
They're the one they're trying to recruit. As soon as they drop him off, before they take Wendy and Marvin out to the gravel pit, he calls the police.
Oh, okay.
Like, immediately when they drop him off.
So he's got some sense.
Yeah, because they've gone through everything that they have done, and they're like, hey, we want you to be part of our posse, and you're going to do this too. He's terrified. So, calls the police, tells the police everything that these guys have told him. And he tells them what car they're in right now, that they're in a black Dodge Shadow. And so while Nicholas is talking to the police and giving all this information, Sergeant John Huber is out and about on patrol scanning license plates. So he comes across a black Dodge Shadow and scans a license plate. And it comes up not the correct car. So he knows this car is stolen. He does not know that it is connected to these killings.
Oh, because he hasn't heard anything of the statement yet.
No,
from
no.
Nicholas. Okay.
Nicholas is in the middle of giving his statement.
Okay.
So they haven't even set out a call on this car yet.
Okay. And
so it just was very coincidental. And so Sergeant John Huber, he calls the car in. He's like, hey, I know this car's stolen. The plates don't match, so on and so forth. And so he starts following the car. And once the kids, the posse, realize that this cop is following them, DeMarcus jumps out the car, starts running. Yep. And so Sergeant Huber, he's just like, okay, well, I'm going to let you run because there's one of you and three of them in the car. So I'm going to keep following the car. Mm-hmm. We'll get you later, bud. And so finally, after a while of chasing this car down, the posse pulls over. Mm-hmm. And which everything went super smooth. Like super
So did he have his
smooth.
lights on, or he was just following them?
Well, at first he was just following them, and then it became chasing them, especially once DeMarcus jumped out the car.
He turned his lights on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So at that point in time, he's thinking that he's just going up to this car that's been stolen. He's going to bust these kids for stealing this car. He looks in the car, sees all the guns. And he's like, nope, everybody get out of the car, put your hands up. And they all completely comply. All three of them. They get out of the car and just put their hands up. And they're like, okay, take us, good sir. So he gets them back to the police station. And while the kids are all being interviewed separately, three of them are just spilling the story. They're everything that has been done. They're telling all of it except for Laura. Laura is the only one that requested a lawyer. And while this is happening, Sergeant Huber hears that Laura had actually told Marvellis to shoot the cop when he comes up. And for some reason, Marvellis did not shoot the cop. Just decided not to. Which, good. Very good. But yeah, he was supposed to and just didn't. So even though Marvellis is supposed to be the ringleader, it kind of sounds like Laura was more of the ringleader.
Yeah, she was made way more twisted in it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So
16 years old. The first killing was really her. Straight in the head.
Yeah. Yep. First killing was Laura. Straight in the head. Absolutely.
I wonder what her family life was like, or what kind of life she lived.
I don't know. And see, everything I read, it didn't say what these kids' lives were like, except for Marvellis. He was the only one that we have any sort of backstory on. But, so the police did find DeMarcus at a nearby house, and he came in easily as well. And so while the police are questioning all of these kids separately, they find that Marvellis was found wearing Wendy's necklace, Danita's coat, and had Joseph's knife in his pocket. Yeah. And like I said, Laura was the only one that asked for a lawyer. So everybody else just offered everything up. But they did say that, all the police say that none of these kids had a single ounce of remorse. Not a single ounce of remorse.
That's what's so weird to me, is how they just randomly killed all these people senselessly for nothing
at all.
It started out as robberies, and they really stole hardly anything.
A curling iron.
Just senseless killings with no remorse.
None.
That is what is just odd to me.
Yep, it's horrible. So Heather, she ended up making a deal to admit to everything if the death penalty would be taken off the table. And Laura and DeMarcus were minors, so they legally couldn't get the death penalty. Laura and Heather both got life in prison and are currently serving their time in the Ohio Reformatory for Women. DeMarcus Smith was also sentenced to life in prison, and he is serving his time in the Mansfield Correctional Institute. Marvellis Keene was indicted by the grand jury. He waived his right to a jury by trial and was judged by a 3-judge panel, and he was serving 5 death sentences. July 20th, 2009, was the day before the execution, and he got to order his last meal, which was a ridiculous doozy of a meal. And I found humor in it because I'm weird, but
You are weird.
I wanted to tell everybody about this meal that he got. He got the whole damn thing. So he got a porterhouse steak with A1 steak sauce, 1 pound of jumbo fried shrimp with cocktail sauce, French fries and onion rings with ketchup, dinner rolls with butter, 2 plums, 1 mango, 1 pound of seedless white grapes, German chocolate cake, 2 bottles of Pepsi, and 2 bottles of A&W cream soda.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
And this was his last meal. And on July 21st, 2009, Marvelous Keene was put to death by lethal injection at 10:36 a.m. His last words were, "I have no words."
Wow. And Laura, nothing happened to her? She was the crazy one in this.
She's in prison. She got life in prison.
But she didn't get...
She was a minor. She
couldn't. But she's not now.
Right, but when she got charged, she was. So, yeah.
And they can't change her sentence.
No.
Well, I guess they can, but I don't know how that works.
I don't know how that works either. But she didn't, I guess if you commit a crime when you're a minor, you can't be sentenced to death. So she got a life sentence. But, yeah, it's so unfortunate because all of these crimes were so senseless. All of these killings were so senseless. And it just...
The lack of remorse is what just totally baffles me.
Horrible, and
they didn't
so
care.
sad. No, they didn't care at all. And it just... The shitty shit of it is... Like, I don't know what all these kids' lives were like, but with Marvelous being such a good boy and just that one turn of events for him, just that one life-changing moment, just completely, it destroyed so many lives, and it's heartbreaking. So that is the story of the Christmas killings. Depressing and sad, but Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Misfits.
Thank you for watching Mystery Loves Company. We'll talk soon.